The moon hung low over Mar-a-Lago, casting a silvery glow across the manicured lawns and ornate architecture of the estate. The air was thick with humidity, the kind that clung to the skin and hinted at the secrets that loomed in the shadows. Inside, the grand rooms were eerily quiet, the usual buzz of laughter and conversation replaced by an unsettling stillness. It was just past midnight when Pam Bondi, former Florida Attorney General, slipped through the heavy doors of the study, her heart racing with anticipation and apprehension. The study was dimly lit, illuminated only by the faint glow of a desk lamp and the soft flicker of candles. Donald Trump sat behind the imposing mahogany desk, his expression unreadable. He gestured for her to take a seat, and as she settled into the plush leather chair, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was stepping into a world far darker than she had ever imagined. "Pam," Trump began, his voice low and measured. "I've got something important to show you." He slid a thick classified folder across the desk, its contents sealed with a red ribbon. The sight of it sent a jolt of adrenaline through her veins. She had been summoned for a reason, and the implications of what lay inside were dizzying. With a steady hand, she untied the ribbon and opened the folder, revealing a trove of documents. The first page was a cover letter, dated just a week prior, detailing communications between various political operatives and a name that sent a shiver down her spine. Adam Schiff. The words blurred together as she scanned the pages, each line revealing a web of unverified communications and coordinated efforts that, if true, painted a damning picture of political maneuvering. As she delved deeper into the documents, her mind raced. There were references to clandestine meetings, discussions about undermining political opponents, and a strategy that seemed to target not just Trump, but the very fabric of the political landscape. The implications were staggering. This was not just a political scandal. It was a potential constitutional crisis. "Are you seeing this?" Trump asked, his eyes narrowing as he observed her reaction. "This is bigger than anything you can imagine. Schiff has been playing a dangerous game, and it's time someone held him accountable." Bondi felt the weight of the folder pressing down on her conscience. She had always been a staunch supporter of Trump, but this was different. The ethical implications of what she was uncovering gnawed at her. She was no stranger to the murky waters of politics, but this felt like a plunge into the abyss. "Donald, this is serious," she replied, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside her. "If we pursue this, it could blow up in our faces. We need to be careful."
"Careful?" Trump scoffed, leaning back in his chair. "We've been careful for too long. It's time to take action. We can't let Schiff and his cronies get away with this."
Bondi knew he was right. The evidence was compelling, and the stakes were impossibly high. But as she considered her options, a thought struck her. The media would devour this story, but would it lead to justice or merely sensationalism? She envisioned headlines screaming about conspiracies and scandals, but what she wanted was accountability, not a circus. "I think we should pursue legal action," she said finally, her resolve hardening. "We need to take this to Congress, where it can be investigated properly. If we go to the media first, it could derail everything." Trump studied her for a moment, his expression inscrutable. Then he nodded slowly. "You're right. We need to be strategic. But you're going to need help." That's when he mentioned Natalie Winters, a journalist known for her tenacity and keen investigative skills. Bondi had heard of her, a rising star in the world of political reporting, but they had never met. "She's been digging into Schiff's connections," Trump explained. "If anyone can help us expose this, it's her." The next day, Bondi found herself seated across from Natalie in a nondescript cafe, the air thick with tension and possibility. Winters was sharp, her gaze unwavering as Bondi laid out the details of the classified folder. The journalist listened intently, her expression shifting from skepticism to intrigue, as Bondi shared the incriminating evidence. "This is explosive," Winters said, her voice barely above a whisper. "But we have to be cautious. If this gets out before we're ready, it could backfire." Bondi nodded, appreciating the gravity of the situation. They spent hours poring over the documents, analyzing every detail and strategizing their approach. As they worked, a partnership began to form, built on a shared commitment to uncovering the truth, no matter the cost. Days turned into weeks as Bondi meticulously prepared her case for Congress. The weight of the evidence felt heavier with each passing day, and the ethical implications loomed large in her mind. She knew that bringing this to light would not just affect Schiff, but could also ripple through the political landscape, shaking the foundations of power. Finally, the day of the congressional hearing arrived. The atmosphere was electric, tension crackling in the air as lawmakers filed into the room. Bondi took her seat, her heart pounding in her chest. She could see Schiff across the room, his demeanor calm and collected, but she sensed the undercurrent of anxiety beneath his polished exterior. As the hearing commenced, Bondi was called to testify. She stood before the committee, the classified folder clutched tightly in her hands. The room was filled with reporters, cameras flashing, and she felt the weight of the moment pressing down on her. "Ms. Bondi," the chairperson began, "please present your findings." With a deep breath, she opened the folder and began to lay out the evidence. The room fell silent as she detailed the communications, the meetings, and the coordinated efforts that implicated Schiff and his associates. As she spoke, she could see the incredulity on some faces, while others shifted uncomfortably in their seats. "This is not just about politics," she asserted, her voice steady. "This is about the integrity of our democracy. We cannot allow individuals to manipulate the system for their own gain." The tension in the room was palpable, and as she concluded her testimony, she felt a surge of determination. She had chosen the path of accountability, and she was prepared to face whatever came next. As the hearing progressed, Schiff was given the opportunity to respond. He stood, a veneer of confidence masking the storm brewing beneath the surface. "This is nothing more than a political witch hunt," he declared, his voice rising. "These allegations are unfounded and designed to distract from the real issues facing our nation." But Bondi sensed the cracks in his facade. The evidence was compelling, and the committee members were beginning to take notice. Questions flew from all directions, and for the first time, Schiff appeared cornered, his carefully constructed narrative unraveling. As the hearing unfolded, Bondi and Winters exchanged glances, a silent understanding passing between them. They were in this together, navigating the treacherous waters of political intrigue and deception. The stakes were high, and they knew that the truth would not come easily. In the days that followed, the fallout from the hearing reverberated through the halls of Congress and beyond. Media outlets picked up the story, but Bondi remained focused on the legal ramifications rather than the sensationalism. She had chosen her path, and now she was determined to see it through. The power struggle between truth and political authority escalated, with Schiff and his allies launching counterattacks, attempting to discredit Bondi and Winters at every turn. But the evidence was undeniable, and as more details emerged, public opinion began to shift. Calls for accountability grew louder, and citizens across the nation rallied for transparency in government. Eventually, the committee announced that they would be launching a formal investigation into Schiff's activities. Bondi felt a sense of vindication, but she also knew that the battle was far from over. The political landscape was fraught with tension, and as the investigation unfolded, it became clear that more players were involved than anyone had anticipated. As the dust settled from the hearing, Bondi and Winters continued their work, digging deeper into the labyrinth of political maneuvering. They uncovered more connections, more evidence, and with each revelation, the stakes grew higher. The duo became a formidable force, unearthing details that many had tried to bury. In the months that followed, the investigation led to a series of dramatic consequences. Several individuals were implicated, and the fallout rippled through the political establishment. Schiff, once a powerful figure, found himself increasingly isolated, his credibility eroding as the evidence mounted against him. But the struggle for truth was not without its challenges. Bondi faced backlash from those who sought to protect their interests, and Winters found herself under scrutiny as her reporting drew the ire of powerful figures. Yet they pressed on, fueled by a shared belief that accountability was essential for the health of democracy. The climax of their efforts culminated in a second congressional hearing, this time with the stakes even higher. As Bondi prepared to present her findings once more, she felt a mixture of anxiety and resolve. This was it, the moment where truth would clash with authority, and the outcome could alter the course of political history. As she stood before the committee once again, she felt the weight of the nation's expectations on her shoulders. The room was packed, the air thick with anticipation. She presented the evidence with clarity and conviction, her voice unwavering as she laid bare the connections and coordinated efforts that had been uncovered. The tension in the room was palpable as Schiff attempted to mount a defense, but the cracks in his armor were evident. The evidence was overwhelming, and the committee members leaned in, captivated by the unfolding drama. In the end, the committee voted for a formal inquiry, and the repercussions were swift. Schiff faced calls for resignation, and as the investigation deepened, more individuals were implicated, revealing a network of political maneuvering that had long remained hidden. In the aftermath, Bondi and Winters emerged as key figures in the push for accountability. Their partnership had transformed into a powerful alliance, one that had challenged the status quo and ignited a movement for transparency. Citizens rallied behind them, demanding that their leaders be held accountable for their actions. As the dust settled, Bondi reflected on the journey they had undertaken. The path had been fraught with challenges, but in the end, they had stood firm in their pursuit of truth. The political landscape had shifted, and the call for accountability resonated louder than ever. In the heart of the nation, a new narrative began to take shape, one that emphasized the importance of transparency, integrity, and the need for citizens to remain vigilant in the face of political deception. Bondi and Winters had become champions of that cause, and as they looked to the future, they knew that their work was far from over. The fight for truth would continue, and they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, united in their commitment to holding power accountable.